All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. My name is John Deline, a systems engineer here at Verify, and I'll be your host for today's session. Today's session will center on WebEx calling, everything you need to know about reporting on hunt groups and call queues. Our presenter today is Mike Stratton, another systems engineer and a familiar voice on our webinars here at Verify. Have you been dressing for the weather this week, Mike?
Yes, I have. It's very cold outside.
Glad to hear it. It's cold. Glad you're dressing for it, not that it's cold. Please note, everyone, that these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours. So if you have to leave early or just want to be able to review it again at your own pace, check the webinars page on our website for all past and upcoming webinars. First, we'll start off with an overview of our company and what we do. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Mike will take us on a deep dive into WebEx calling hunt groups and call queues, explore the various call rows from answered records to ring no answer records. We'll leave time for Q&As, so if you have any questions during the presentation, make sure to enter them in the Q&A panel. After Q&A, we'll award one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around to see if you've won. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading CDR reporting and call analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, Cisco Cube CDR, and our latest additions, Zoom and WebEx call reporting. If you have any questions on any of our features, please contact us at support@verify.com or reach out to your account manager. One more thing before we kick things off. For an additional fee, Verify offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Verify's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you a dedicated Verify SE to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free, hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us or your account manager, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our Enhanced Consulting Services, or ECS.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us today. Today's webinar is going to be centered around WebEx calling, and I'm going to kind of share everything I know about hunt groups and call queues. What's in the data, what's in the software, and then kind of everything in between, and kind of give you everything that we've learned so far, like over the past year. Also, when talking about hunt groups and call queues, we should also give auto attendance an honorable mention. Many times when looking at call queue or hunt group data, especially when looking at the entire sequence, the auto attendant will pop up in there. Usually, when it comes to reporting, we see the top three are always going to be hunt groups, call queues, and then auto attendants. So first, let's identify kind of what those three or what each of them do or what roles they play. So auto attendants, it greets the caller, and then they can be presented with options. They can select the different options, and then the auto attendant will route them to different parts of the phone system or for WebEx. It'll send the calls to the appropriate user, like hunt group or call queue. Call queues, they can greet callers, kind of like the auto attendants, but they're not going to send the calls everywhere around the organization. The calls will be presented to an agent or somewhere, and the calls can also be queued if no agent is available. Hunt groups, very similar to call queues, except they don't allow queuing. So get that out of the way. So first things first with this, the talking about the difference. First, I just kind of want to cover the differences when moving from CUCM to WebEx calling, because a lot of our users or a lot of our customers are in the process of or already have moved from CUCM deployment into WebEx calling, and a lot of those call manager users are heavy on the hunt group reports, whether with or without native call queuing, and so the if you're trying to recreate a hunt group report that you had with the CUCM reporting into WebEx calling, it's going to be a little bit of different behind the scenes and creating the search criteria and what everything means. The data between what we get from Call Manager and what we get from WebEx calling are completely different. So I'll kind of cover that too, not just hunt groups and call queues, but also kind of, what the differences between Call Manager and WebEx calling. So first, get that kind of out of the way. I'll show you a Hunt Group report and kind of show you what we have been getting for the majority of our users who have been running with Call Manager. So with Call Manager, we can build a report looking at the Hunt Group. We can get a total call count. This 406 here is more than likely how many calls came into the Hunt Group. Now, in some cases, with like call recording and cold transfers or blind transfers, that number can be a little bit skewed. And then we require some additional configurations on the search set side of the report. But for in most cases, this is a pretty good accurate number. Average call durations, total call durations, ring times, answer percentages, abandoned, voicemail. So this is your standard Hunt Group reports. We can show the agents, and then if you go to the detail, when looking at a call to a Hunt Group, this record here in Call Manager is the call. This is the cold transfer from the agent into the Hunt Group. So really, your main Hunt Group data in Call Manager is just this record here. This contains the Hunt Group Hunt Group information, so like what Hunt Group the call went to, and it also tells us which agent answered, or if the call was abandoned or went to voicemail or something else. We can see where it went, all contained within one record. If you're moving to WebEx calling, the idea or the having everything kind of in one record that's easy to understand kind of goes out the window. So let's jump into WebEx calling here. This is our demo system. It's running our current release 15.3 with 15.4. It should be out pretty soon. Last week we did the what's new. So if you want to go check that out, it's up on our website. So when and really in this case, I'm going to kind of lean on the Hunt Group data in our lab. We just have more of it, but from a data perspective, the Hunt Group data and the call queue data is pretty much the same, except the call queue data contains queue times and the queue information. But from like when you're looking at it, trying to understand it and read it, it's pretty much the same. So first of all, how do we pull or how do we search for a Hunt Group or call queue? It's really easy here. Looking at the criteria, we can get rid of call that one there, and then just search for hunts. So if we search for the word hunt, we can see there's a criteria called Hunt Group. We can add it. If you search for the word queue, we have a criteria called call queue, and we can also search for data based upon queue time. So that queue time is also going to be applied to the call queues as well. So we can search for the call queue for the Hunt Group. If you click on the drop down, you'll see we have a list of the call queues. Same as applied for the Hunt Groups. If you turn on historical options here, this will give you the ability to look for any Hunt Groups or call queues that are no longer active or present within the WebEx system. I don't know if this has any. I don't know if there's any. No, these are all active. But what you'll see if something's expired or no longer exists, there'll be a little flag next to the name. It's like a little black flag next to the name, and that'll tell you that it's deactivated or has been deleted. So this information here in the drop-down list is populated by the software. It goes out if scheduled or if enabled. We go out like every morning or once a day, in most cases, to pull certain information from WebEx's API. So a lot of information that within Call Manager that we would just pull on the fly when running the report. It's not best practice to do so with the API. So we go out, we populate this data usually once a day, either during just Monday through Friday, or we can include weekends as well. And that information then is here for you to look up when you run the reports or when you run like a call history search. So let's pull some data. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the call queue for now. We're gonna look up the Chicago Hunt Group. Let's add it here, and then I'm just gonna go back and search for data for the last, or actually for the current and previous week. So we'll go ahead and apply it, and then view the results. So if I did everything right, this should pull back 62 call records. You can see that I've done this a few times. Let's search. Okay, so here's my 62, actually, shouldn't say 62 records, 62 sequences. So within the WebEx data, and if you're familiar with the Call Manager data, we, when calls are transferred or when they, they go from they make multiple legs. So you can have, one call will have, 2, 3, 4, 5 or more different records per call. WebEx calling data is pretty much the same, where we can have multiple calls or multiple records, grouped together into one call, which we call a sequence. So because I'm searching it based on a sequence, I pulled back 62 different sequences, and then each sequence is made up of multiple calls. So this 62 here could have, 100, 200, 300 plus rows of data. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to expand this guy here in the history search, and this is the entire call. So this sequence is made up of 6 different rows of data. But when combined, it's one unique call record. So here, to kind of break it down, these 2 records here are part of the same kind of event. You can kind of tell with the gaps here. So Cisco or WebEx gives us data from like both sides of the call, like the calling party or the call party, and then if it's possible, we'll merge those records together into one row. In this case, because the call party or the calling party is not the same, we won't merge it, and you'll just see both records as they came from WebEx. So here we can see Luciana at 7804 called in on the local gateway, went directly to the Chicago office. So they probably dialed 8928, and they were there. They went to the hunt group, and that is really kind of the what I call the hunt group record. This is where the caller goes to the hunt group. The call is now in control of the hunt group. That kind of reflects, or that's kind of the same as what we used to see with Call Manager, where we have that one hunt group record. When it connects to the hunt group, then we also get the agent information. What's new or what's different in WebEx calling from what you see in Call Manager is everything that happens after. So these 4 records here are the hunt group presenting the call to the agents that are logged into the hunt group at the time when the call is received. So we can see here there's 3 calls with 0 duration, this one, and this one, and then the 4th call has the same duration as the record up here. So this tells me that this record or this call was presented to Isaiah, Rex, and Belinda. These 3 agents did not pick up the call. Reese down here did answer the call, talked with the caller for 6 minutes and 19 seconds. There was 12 seconds of ring time, and the call just ends here. So the big difference between WebEx calling and Call Manager data is that we get a record every time a call is presented to an agent. Same thing applies to the call queues. You're going to see a record for each time a call is presented. So in this case, this call queue this hunt group is using broadcast. So every time it's broadcast, we get, in this case, 4 different agent records. So one call is automatically guaranteed to create between 5 to 6 different rows of data that we store in the database. So if I were to let me go back down and expand one more record here. So this record here, separate call sequence, still going to the Chicago hunt group. What we're seeing here is another step before it gets to the hunt group. So Isabel at 7914 calls in. They dial, or they're sent to 3339. Not their first step is not 8928. So what is this? If you scroll over here, you can see 33 or 3339. The called party user type is attendant video. This is the auto attendant. So the first call was direct to the hunt group. This call was to the auto attendant. We have it named as the Charleston auto attendant, and then the call goes to the Chicago hunt group at 8928. So auto attendant, then the hunt group, and then we see Reese, Isaiah, and Rex again. This time Reese didn't pick up. It was Belinda. Belinda picks up, then talks to Isabel for 1 minute and 13 seconds. So we can see the auto attendant, and kind of the way that WebEx is kind of telling us what's going on is you can look at this calling party and called party user type. This is a great field. It's helped so much in just understanding what's going on within the data. So the user type will tell you who's sending the call and then where they're sending the call to. So in this case, let's go. So in this case, when the call begins, the local gateway is delivering the call to the auto attendant, and then the auto attendant is delivering the call to the hunt group. And then it's not so much like in the Call Manager world where we used to see the every hop when a caller would call into a hunt group would be the caller on the gateway going to the agent, going to the hunt group, going to voicemail, wherever they're going. Like each call is like almost like a separate inbound call. In WebEx, it's you have each like device passing the call to each like user or each user type. So again, gateway to auto attendant to hunt group, and then the hunt group is delivering the call or trying to present the call to each of the different users. So when building a report, And when like messing around with the data to see what you can pull out of it, I always throw in the called and the calling party, or the calling and the call party user type, because it just gives so much information as to what's going on the call queue side. And if I pull down, if I pull on the criteria, you can also filter by it too. Either on both sides or each side individually. We have the auto attendant, the hunt group, and then user and like local gateway. For call queues, what we see is either call center premium or call center standard. So if I was to run the same search on a call queue instead of a hunt group, instead of seeing hunt group here, I would see either call center premium or call center standard. Okay. So with these two, if I were to export this as is and just kind of build a report around it without any other filtering, what you would get would be something like this. So this is just my basic export. Here's my search called hunt group equals Chicago office. Now I have, instead of having 62 sequences, I have 327 unique calls. So these 62 sequences or 62 calls, are made up of 327 different records. So as is, this search is giving me a count that's a little too high. Just looking at the total call counts and then going down, grouping it by the agent. What I see down here for each agent has 62 total calls, and then the answered call count is different for each. And then the not connected count, if you add these two up, you're going to get 62. So what this means is that total call count now, when looking at the agent, no longer means that's how many calls they answered, like what we would see within the call manager data. What we now show as total call count is the number of calls presented. So if you're a contact center user, calls presented, that's now total call count. Answered call count is now what we're seeing more and more of, whereas in the old reporting, total call count was great. Now most of our hunt group and call queue users they don't really care about how many calls were presented, although it's definitely there if you need it. But that answered call count is super important. So if you want to see how many calls your agents answered, without doing a ton of other search criteria and building out the search sets, lean on the answered call count to get you those counts. This applies for hunt groups and call queues, so we can see how many calls each agent received or took, and then you're not going to have the call count, how many times they were presented and didn't answer. So but going up to this hunt group, these hunt group stats, this number is a little bit too high. So if I were to close out of this report and then make a small change, now we're going to see I got rid of, so here when I'm building out the export, you can see under the search set stats, we have total call count. I added total call sequence count. So this gives me the count of the number of sequences. So what I'm looking for is this count right here, because I want to see how many times did someone call into the hunt group, not how many rows of data, which is what you're getting with total call count. So in this case, let's go down here, a little bit bigger. We can see same query, I'm just doing called hunt group equals Chicago office, but now my total call sequence count is 62, a much prettier number. My answered call count and not connected call count are still a little messy because I'm combining, and the problem is really I'm combining, my query is combining that hunt group record with all of those agent user records. And so the answered call count is going to come from this record here and then this record down here. So I'm kind of double dipping because I'm combining the hunt group record and all of these user types. And I can kind of show that with, if I have the, I don't have it, let me add it to my list here. So we have in our more later releases with WebEx calling, we have added call scenarios to the detail section. So I can see now that this call record here, or these two records here, are treated as answered. These three user records or the agent records are not connected. And this bottom record that Reese picked up is now marked as answered. So that's why again, a simple search for my hunt group is giving me these numbers because we have 1, 2, 3 answered records per call. So to make this prettier, to make this report a little more easier to understand, what I recommend based on the data is building out two reports. There's a report looking at the hunt group level metrics, where you're seeing how many calls came into the hunt group, how many calls were answered, how many calls were connected, not connected, that kind of stuff. And then if you want to see the agent data, build a separate report that only looks at these user records. And so what I'm talking about with that, Let me build up my fourth or my third revision. So here, I took that same report, and now instead of just searching for the Chicago office, I added my my user type, and I said I want only the calls where the called party user type is, instead of it being hunt group or user or everything, I just want to see user. So now I'm filtering out this record here at the top, this second record, that I only want to see these calls here. So really what I'm seeing is one answered call here, and then 3 calls that are not connected. And again, this also applies for the call queues, same exact report, same exact, query. You're just, instead of looking for a hunt group, you're looking for call queue. So in this report, I see my total call sequence is 62. My answered call count is now 61. And those are based on the user data. And then my not connected call count is 187. So I'm getting closer, but still, there's certain values when you're looking at certain points of view, they're just not going to add up because of the way that WebEx presents the data. So the way around that is when looking at the WebEx data, again, build separate reports, and we have those reports available. So if you go to our website, under the download section, we have a pack of templates available that you can download and then deploy in your environment. We have them for Call Manager, WebEx Calling, Cube, CCX, Zoom as well. So here's all of our templates. And the hunt group level, we have hunt group summary by agent and the hunt group summary report. These 2 reports are great. One is for like the hunt group level, and then this agent report is, keys in on the agent metrics and is built to look at the agent metrics. And then we have the same thing for the call queues, agent report, and summary report up here. So here's a quick example. This is the hunt group summary report. Zoom in a little bit. So the hunt group summary report is configured. Let's click on this guy. If you go to the search stats, we can see we're looking at the called hunt group is Chicago office. You can add more than one hunt group if you want to. And then you'll see it in, if you try on grouping, you'll see it there. But we're looking for all the calls where the called hunt group is one of our hunt groups, and then the user type is also hunt group. So we're excluding or ignoring those user legs that are inflating our call counts. So here, and this could be like an easy, single page report. If you want to turn on the detail, cradle to grave, or add grouping and everything else, you can. So here, called hunt group, total call count 62, answered call count 61, not connected call count. Now it's 1. Why? Because we got rid of all those 0 duration agent records, and now we can see how many calls were answered and not answered. Then we have, the percentages, and then the other, average durations and total call duration. So by just building a report around the hunt group data, our numbers are much more kind of what we expect to see in the report. And then this template also has different graphs and charts for, number of calls by hour a day, by day of the week, and by date as well. And then on the agent side, load that guy. Let me show you what we have. So with the summary by agent report, it's pretty much the same report. Once it loads, maybe. There we go. With the agent report, it's pretty much configured the exact same way. The called hunt group is the Chicago office, but the called party user type is now, instead of it's set to hunt group, it's set to user. So what this gives us is a report where we're only highlighting the user metrics or the user data, or I'm sorry, what I should say is the user calls. So our search brings back 61 answered calls, and you could throw in call sequence here too to get 62 total calls if you wanted to. The total average call duration is 1:05, total call duration. And then in the grouping section, we have the same metrics. And then everything is the way we were seeing before, where the 4 agents, number of calls presented, number of calls answered, number of calls, that they didn't answer, in the report. And then if you wanted to, you can turn on detail, cradle to grave, and everything else for the report. And on the queue side, same thing. Call queue agent report. Same exact philosophy. You have the called party user type is user, and the call queue is either finance. In this case, the finance CSQ, but you can pick more than one CSQ, or on the summary side, it's going to be the same way, where you have the queue name is going to be, in this case, we just have the one queue, the finance queue, and the executive queue. But the called party user type is either call center standard or call center premium to highlight those call queues. So this report then looks pretty much the same as the Hunker report, but we have two different queues selected. So you have finance and executive. Total call count gives you the number of calls presented. Answered will be 36 and 1. So again, queued call count. So if a call is only counted as queued if there's no agent available. In this case, this queue had 36 calls. Every time a call hit the queue, there was an agent available, so none of the calls were queued. But if it was a busier queue, you would see different queue counts here. And then the same thing with charts and graphs and then detail like that. So I guess that's kind of it. And we're running out of time, but in a nutshell, to kind of cover what I was talking about, kind of recap real quick. The big thing with the WebEx calling data when it comes to hunt groups or call queues is going to be those zero duration agent records. They're going to, if you don't account for those, they're going to inflate your call counts. So when building reports, I highly recommend, having a hunt group or call queue level reports and then an agent report to kind of keep those separate so those zero duration records aren't messing with your call counts. And I guess we'll pause here. John, I'll punt it back to you for any.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions for you. First, I realize I may not be your number one fan because there's a Let's Go Mike in there, so I've got competition.
There we go.
But Ramiro asks, is this reporting available in version 15.2 and for CUCM? I think CUCM is quite different, similar but different, right?
So, yeah, 15.2. This was Was there more? Sorry.
No, just those two questions.
15.2, yeah, most of this was available in 15.2. I think the only thing not for WebEx calling, I forget when the call scenario stuff was added. That may have been down the road. One thing I forgot to point this out too. On the call scenario side, you can also filter the data by call scenario. So if you only want to see like answered calls, not connected calls, you could just you could select. I only want to see answered calls. I only want to see connected, not connected. Calls with the voicemail. But yeah, on the hunt group side, we have a great hunt group template available that you can download from our website. It is if you're only looking at call manager data. This report template here is I base it off of the template that's available on our website. So this is looking at call manager hunt group data as well. So all you do is you can import the template into your software. And then just tell the software, the hunt group number, and then this report will generate when it runs. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks. And another question, this might be subject for a subsequent webinar would be can these things that you've been showing us here be applied to the dashboard widgets too?
Yeah, I didn't really get into those as much. On the dashboard and widget side, the same thing can be applied for call queues and hunt groups. Let me see if I can get there real quick. I'll let this load. Was there any other? I'll come back. Oh, here it goes. So I have a hunt group dashboard already ready to go. And this one is just looking at like just some basic stuff with how many calls, agent data, but they act the same way. I'll let it load. Yeah, while it's loading, was there another question?
There was, but it probably is an even lengthier one. So maybe we'll take that one offline. And we've got some content building up here for a subsequent webinar.
I haven't been here in this one for a while, so it's got to recache and requery the data. And this lab has been kind of dragging this morning. I noticed. I think I was hammering it a little hard, but there we go. So yeah, this is a basic sample, kind of like a hunt group spec dashboard. Here again, those aren't my same agents, but this is probably for a different hunt group. But distribution, calls per hour, agent totals. I think this one's going to be like the same grouping where we're showing kind of this information here, but just counts once it comes in. It's dragging today, but
yeah. Well,
there we go. Total call count, answer call count. So we have a total call count. So how many calls were presented? Answered call count, how many calls came in. And in this case, we have our different agents. So the same 4 agents here. Here's presented. Here's answered. Same thing down here, but this is showing distribution. And this one's a little skewed, but this one's looking at concurrency. And then total call counts connected for the previous 7 days, call durations, average duration. So the same logic applies when building out the widgets. Just kind of understand how those records and like all those different rows of data are going to impact. So like if you want like this case, this one here, I'm looking at the Hunk group metrics here. So here I'm going to be filtering on the Hunk group user type. In this case, I'm filtering on the user type or the user type to pull in the agent data. So yeah, it's just a matter of building out your reports, or if you have save reports when you're building out a widget. I know we're over. I apologize, but when you're building out a widget, you could, instead of hand building out your search set, you could pick a save report. So when you're building out your search sets for your widget, you can create your own search set, or if you have like a save report, come in here, pick your report, or pick your call key or Hunk group report, and then the search from that report will then be carried over into your widget. So instead of having to always redo the same search set or modify it, if you have reports for those call queues or Hunk groups, you can then use those same searches in your widgets and dashboards.
Yeah, that's a great feature that we have. It allows you to transfer it right over from a report into in a dashboard. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take control back. Want to thank everyone again, everyone who attended this week. We appreciate that you've made time in your busy schedules to join us. Our next session will be on January 24th, when Dre will host and Mike will do double duty, 2 weeks in a row presenting, this time on troubleshooting the UCCX real-time CSQ widget. Thanks, everyone. We look forward to next time. Bye for now.